Hello, everyone. This is the Crypto Currently podcast. I'm joined by Chris and Ravi today. We're going to touch a little bit on Ripple and a little bit on Iota. So I wanted to start with the Ripple stuff. Basically, what I've seen over the last couple weeks here that's been super crazy to me is the influence of the media, strictly with Ripple, the way that the news of it going onto Coinbase basically shot its market share through the roof. And then when it was decided that it definitely isn't going on Coinbase, at least not right now, is shot through the floor again, which to me was a crazy swing. It was really like violent, actually, how high it went and then how low it went. So I'm sure you guys watch the same thing. Ravi, thoughts?
Yeah, I think it didn't go back through the floor though. It's still like $1.76.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's still looking good. So
it is a dip. I mean, I think a lot of the people that entered into Ripple during this media surge, they did announce a lot of other things. The pilot program for MoneyGram is something very big. The remittance market is a $600 billion annual market, and Ripple's capabilities to provide service for that can really take a lot of funds into their market cap. So I do see their market cap is below $2 billion for the 24-hour
volume. I mean, they're 1.75, so they didn't dip too far down.
No, but it is we didn't see the price, go terribly down. I did see it just the other day above $3. So we are looking at a pretty drastic fall from that height. However, it wasn't very long ago that it was still in the pennies.
Yeah, we're in a weird world there, right? Because when you look at like how much this stuff has jumped up over 6 months' time, it's easy to lose frame of reference and how high it's gone. All of it. I mean, absolutely everything. If you look at the prices from a year ago, it's incomprehensible how much this stuff has shot up. So, even if it's not astronomically up where it was, we're still doing. Everybody that's in it is still probably doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Iota had a similar thing. Chris, you can probably touch on that a little bit more than I know at the moment, but I know that they've got some massive partnerships going on right now that helped them out a ton, and they're actually pretty stable, all things considered.
Yeah, I caught Iota pretty early, which makes me super happy. But they're a super legit crypto based on a different architecture than the blockchain. It's the Tangle, and I'm not going to belabor all that. You can Google it. But basically, it's still sort of experimental technology, but it's working. And they do have a lot of extremely big name partnerships. The internet sort of they kind of fell victim to their own hype cycle with the Microsoft thing. Mm-hmm. They weren't necessarily. I wouldn't say what they said was untrue in any way. It's just the linguistic way that we describe a partnership in business isn't exactly what was going on there. Like that Microsoft is partnering with them to do some projects. So in that regard, it's true. It's just that when people hear partnership, they think it's like a joint venture type thing. And so
there's some contract that's been signed, and then all of a sudden, Microsoft is operating on Iota's platform. Is the way that I think it's mostly perceived, which is kind of the same thing with the MoneyGram thing right now, where that initial news boosted it really hard for a couple days, and then when the pressers came out, that was like, pump the brakes, kid. This is not happening overnight. This isn't gonna it'll change the game, but not right this second. Everything calms down. It's interesting in such a volatile market to see how impressively fast and aggressive any news can affect any of this.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And we see that paralleled, with Ripple. For example, I brought up that MoneyGram quote unquote partnership. I think it is important for all of us people who might be, just speculating in these different currencies, to really do your due diligence, understand what is happening in the press and what exactly they are saying. For example, I had a friend of mine message me about the MoneyGram partnership with Ripple, and after I did some research, I found out this is just a pilot program. It's very small. It's probably not going to affect their market capitalization in the way that is kind of implied in some of these articles. I think there's a big miscommunication between journalists and the public a lot of the times.
Oh, very much so.
100%. Yeah. There's also a big misunderstanding that I think traders need to start looking at coin count, because they don't. And it's because they're not educated in this way. Like they think of like the value of these things as being not inherently like relative to the coin count. But like it's going to be very hard for something like Ripple or Cardano, which is a project that I love, to ever reach a price of like what Bitcoin is right now, because there's just a significantly larger supply. So you can't, like, the math just doesn't work out. You start talking about like the entire world money supply. Like,
well, it's interesting when people talk about that too. Ripple has no cap, right? There's no coin cap on that one.
There is a coin cap. So the thing about Ripple's, I'm gonna use the term blockchain. I'm not sure if every person would agree with that, but it's all pre-mined tokens. There's just under 100 billion of these tokens, but currently there's 30 some odd billion in circulation. The rest of the tokens are controlled by Ripple, and I believe they said they're going to be releasing tokens, something like 1 billion tokens a month. Yeah, about 1 billion tokens a month. I think it was like over 48 months or something, so that they could increase the circulation amount. And that's really going to have an effect on the price. Yeah,
and there's just so many of them, and Chris is exactly right. Like, there's only so much money that can conceivably be influxed into this sphere, right? Into this money sphere here. So there is a finite amount of upward mobility on some of this stuff depending on the coin count. You look at a project from last year called 300 Token that was interesting in that they went the complete opposite way. They only released 300 of these cryptos, only 300 coins ever, and they went into it very transparently, just saying, we're only making a very, very small amount of these just to see what happens if we can, artificially bump the price way up to see what the market will respond to it with. Bitcoin is finite, and we're running out. I think we're 80% of the way there, so we'll see how that immediately affects it.
Yeah, well, I mean, all these coins are part of like this. This is the greatest economic experiment that we'll see in our lifetimes, probably. And so, knowing coin count is just a big part of that equation. And actually, that's a good segue, because I was in a bit of my research. I do think that Neo is one of those that's super undervalued, precisely because it's only got like about 61 million coin count, but it's also that those coins are non-divisible, which I find very interesting and kind of unique.
That is interesting. So I did not realize that.
Doesn't know, pretty much, with the exception of Neo, and I'm sure others that I'm unaware of, but pretty much every coin are divided up into smaller amounts that make up the whole.
Right.
Bitcoin's smallest, I believe, is the Satoshi.
Correct. Yeah. It's like an 8 decimal place unit. Yeah. The Satoshi.
Yeah, which is exactly what Chris is talking about. Makes it makes Neo very interesting in that there's no division there. So, there's no breaking it apart. There's no, you either have one or you don't.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a strange, just economically, the way we use money, and when you create a transaction, we may not use currency that has exact value for what we're purchasing. If I buy a cup of coffee for $4.99, but I only have 5 Neo, what's going to happen with that lost little bit of value? is it automatically just rounded up? So it's I think it has a very, very strange issue there with dealing with how we exchange value.
Are you talking about the low value coffee that you're currently drinking?
Yeah. I would much rather pay the full $5, that's for sure.
Well, Ravi, if you weren't all spending your time shilling Ripple over there, you would know that the currency of Neo is gas generated by Neo, and gas is divisible.
Gas is divisible. Okay. You know, I just haven't done my my due diligence on Neo, really, is what it is.
Yeah, Neo is a coin I'm unfamiliar with as well, even though it's been sitting in the top 10 on market cap for as long as I can remember, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it got sort of crushed by like all the FUD about China banning cryptos, and it was sort of branded as like the Chinese Ethereum. That's not. I think that's sort of a not accurate portrayal of it, but it's just a different architecture for a blockchain platform, similar to Ethereum. They've separated out the currency chain from the like architecture chain. Cardano, I guess, is doing something similar. They have an app chain and a transaction chain. And I don't know, I'm not technical enough to really get into how that works or if one works better or not, but I suspect as time goes on, the better architectural models will win.
And I'm sure at some point somebody listening will be more than happy to remind us of our lack of technical expertise in this in the comments.
Yeah, the comments should be good on this one.
So have you guys seen any other massive swings as a result of the media influx? Steam is an interesting one because it kind of cycles back on itself the way that Steemit works, just with it being this sort of blockchain and crypto powered Reddit analog, I guess is the best way to put it. It sort of cycles itself up and through.
Oh yeah, Steam's genius. I mean, so all these coins they go up and down in hype cycles, right? And then you build a crypto on top of a platform that generates hype. It's a brilliant business model.
Yep, I agree. And I mean, we're on it. I get it, I guess, but at the same time, I feel like I don't. I know that there's massive amounts of money floating around. It's a very attractive thing. It looks good. It's enticing. It's like an enticing place to put created content, which in and of itself increases its inherent value, which is it's great. It's an awesome platform.
Absolutely, and I think it's good that you can actually see the participation and like the types of things that are created by the community. I love the idea of Steam.
It's just powerful. It's a powerful tool. I mean, it's putting all of our best social applications together as far as where people are generating content, receiving content. Because it isn't just about cryptocurrency, even though, as far as I'm aware, that kind of like leads the charge for it. But if we see the day where all of a sudden pop culture and blockchain merge together in a way that we're reading all the unfortunate business of whomsoever happens to get a sexual assault allegation at this point on Steemit to shock on through the news, I think that's where we're headed eventually.
Well, there has to be some sort of not an antitrust thing, but if you think of Facebook and Twitter as they're effectively monopolies. Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, they're effectively monopolies on the way that like modern humans communicate. And if you can decentralize that power through blockchain, whether that's through Steemit or some other fashion, I mean, that's a $1 trillion, project.
Right, and just for the well-being of not only our country, but probably any China is an example, or North Korea, places that have put their own internet infrastructure together to undo that echo chamber effect. Even if it, depending on where you are, it doesn't really doesn't matter. But they're so echo chambery in that you put information into it through conversations, and then that information gets mined, and then it sends that back at you in the form of advertisements and what shows up on your news feed, and just everything gets really echo chambery.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and we're entering like a sort of interesting / dangerous / either dystopian or utopian, and probably all of those at the same time sort of time period, where like every action you do online may be able to be monetized through the blockchain in some way. At the same time, that's also going to be instantly verifiable, unless it's a private blockchain, to the people that are monitoring it, and in that case, in government in many cases, and that's a problem. I don't know. I'm sort of a radical libertarian in the sense that I hope that this whole thing just really diminishes the power of government, but we'll see.
Robbie, thoughts?
Well, I think it definitely will. Government intervention is inevitable. I think they have definitely caught on to what's happening with the power of decentralization. And this technology is really allowing for pure democracy to actually exist. But it's just a natural state, to be honest. You see it in nature, decentralized capabilities. Andreas Antonopoulos used a metaphor of an ant colony. And individually, ants are very dumb and they can't really do much. They're just heavy lifters. But collectively, as a colony, they can build these very incredible complex structures that allow all of them to exist in numbers of, thousands, hundreds, millions of them at a time. So that's definitely, I think, where we're going. And Steam, as a social media platform, is allowing another avenue for content creators or just people who want to share what it is they're doing.
Well, you're also looking
the
at
community.
The gaming industry is another huge example. Leaving one realm of powerful business and entering another. Blockchain is providing gaming with this crazy new way to sort of mix like the Steam marketplace with Unity engine and all this stuff. And I talked to Andrew, who is one of the founders of Chimera, and they worked on HunterCoin and Namecoin to develop these blockchain games for human mining. And you're seeing a lot of these companies that are developing a place where you can, on the blockchain, build games, sell games, and have people play them for in-game crypto that can either be obviously pulled out for whatever currency you happen to be using or transferred to another game or whatever. And it might be a closed infrastructure, but it does open up the avenue away from something that's notoriously in the news recently is like EA doing these pay to win, even, overpay to play sort of options where the decentralization helps.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, no,
I love that.
It is so awesome. Because it's sort of turning the model on its head, and it's really, I think anybody who really understands crypto, like they sort of like pause their life and be like, oh, the way we've been doing things is not the way we're going to keep doing things, because it doesn't make any sense anymore.
It's that hinge point, right, where you look at, I'm just arbitrarily throwing a year out, but you look at life before like 1993, when the internet was either extraordinarily infantile, almost to the point of uselessness, and then time afterwards where it became what it is now. And then we're going to sort of look at that same shift sometime around this year or last year, where we'll say, okay, we had pre-blockchain infrastructure and post-blockchain infrastructure that has changed the way that everything functions.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And we're still, like, I don't know, everybody keeps thinking they missed the boat on Bitcoin and all that, but we're still at the tip of this iceberg.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We are still in the infancy stage with this technology. So, imagine what type of possibilities can come out when we actually learn how to walk, is what I'm going to say. We're just kind of crawling along here and discovering new things, new sights and smells that this technology is allowing us to do. It's really an exciting time to be entering into this space. You might not know much about cryptocurrency. For those of you listening this might be like the first thing you've Googled or something. But it is an incredibly powerful tool and most people don't really know what's to come. It's an amazing piece.
Well, you're exactly right. I think we're only headed for better things. So I think that's as natural a place to call episode 1 quits as humanly possible. I'm Eric. I want to thank Ravi and Chris for coming on and chatting with us. This is Crypto Currently. Hit subscribe if you have not already. Please do so, and check us out on Twitter and Steam.